It was January 28, 2011, just before sunset in Cairo, and the tide had dramatically turned against President Hosni Mubarak's police state. Mubarak's once fearsome band of bullies was being openly hunted in the streets surrounding Tahrir Square, the epicenter of a burgeoning revolution. A day of increasingly violent street protests had seen tens of thousands of protesters confronting the forces of Central Security, the ground-level shock troops of Egypt's monolithic interior ministry. A response that started with riot shields, wooden batons, and water cannons had long since escalated into massive tear gas barrages and the indiscriminate use of buckshot. The protesters, in the face of such violence, temporarily abandoned their signature cries of Selmiya, peaceful, and responded with their own storm of rocks, concrete chunks, and eventually Molotov cocktails. The combatants in Cairo had no idea what was happening in Alexandria or Suez or any of the hundreds of revolutionary battle zones that day. There was no internet and no cell phone service, a final desperation move by the government to choke communications and blunt the mounting waves of public anger that threatened to sweep away Mubarak's 29-year rule. All they knew was what they could see, and what they could see was hundreds of Central Security cadres standing between them and Tahrir. It was sometime before 6 p.m. Tear gas still lingered acridly in the air, and blood spattered the asphalt, which had been gouged and broken up to create fresh projectiles. The protesters on the Nil bridge, bolstered by waves of newly arrived enforcements, had succeeded after a 4-hour battle in at last cracking police lines. Everything changed in that moment. In the streets surrounding Tahrir Square, it was now open season on anyone wearing the signature black Central Security uniform. Ahmed Abdallah, a young film director, crossed the bridge in the immediate aftermath of this victory. He found a scene of bloodlust and revenge. The Central Security cadres that hadn't yet fled had apparently been left to fend for themselves. They were outnumbered, terrified, and viciously targeted by enraged protesters. Some people were ready to eat them alive, Abdullah recalled. There were still a few paddy wagons roaming around, but any time one would appear, it would immediately get surrounded and pounded with rocks.